I'm convinced you guys are going to be the death of me. Let me explain. You guys have gotten me put in handcuffs before. Think I'm joking? Nope. So there was a time years ago when in my youth group we went on a stint where we were doing a bunch of airsoft gun wars. You guys know what airsoft guns are? Yeah. Okay. And so we would have these wars as the youth group all around the church building. Our church building was kind of like in an L. Oh, sorry, I almost just killed you. It's in an L, and then there's a little space, and there's like a house, and then this is all parking lot. If you couldn't visualize it, fine. Well, so we had played a bunch of wars over time. It was something we did, again, regularly as a youth group. And then there was this one time that a couple of the teen guys came on like a Thursday afternoon. They're like, hey, Brett, you want to have an airsoft gun war? I was like, yes, I do. Yes, I do want one. And so it's like 2 o'clock on a Thursday. I'm in khaki pants and a buttoned-up shirt. And they said, okay, it'll be us two against you. Okay, fine, that'd be all right. And so we're going all around the outside of the church building. I have an M4 replica, okay? What could possibly go wrong here? Well, as somebody drove by, they just saw this guy walking around with what they thought was an AK-47. Okay, so they call the police. All right, and so I'm just around minding my own business, having this airsoft war with a couple of teen guys who I haven't seen in like 5 minutes, by the way, because they cheated and went inside and they were going to try to ambush me. So I'm going around the outside, and again, our building is like this, and so I'm walking this way, and I see 2 cop cars in between our building and this house. I'm like, oh, okay, they're probably coming to check or whatever. They come gunning around the side. So I immediately like, no, so I immediately just put my hands up, and I'm holding like this M4 replica in his hand. And he gets out and he pulls his gun. He goes, put the gun. I'm like, it's like, what's going on? I'm like, how do I communicate to this guy that I am not a threat? So after we are sitting there for a little bit and I'm not sure what to do, he goes, put the gun on the ground. So I'm like, he says, turn around, put your hands on your head. Comes and grabs, he's checking my pockets and everything like that. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm having an airsoft gun war with a couple of teenagers. He goes, where are they? I don't know. And now there's a 3rd cop car in the church parking lot. There were 7 more on their way, by the way. And so there were 10 police cars on their way to us. And they go, well, they're like, do you have your ID on you? It's in my office. Like, well, is there anybody that can vouch for you? I don't see anybody. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to have to put you in cuffs till we figure this out. Okay. So they put me in handcuffs, and I'm standing up against a police cruiser. And I'm going, okay, how do I get out of this without everybody finding out? And out walks from the church building one of our elders and my dad. I'm like, out the other door walks our preacher and the 2 teen guys that I was supposed to be having this airsoft war with, but they're carrying food out to somebody who stopped for food. It was like, where have you guys been? They all came out, they vouched for me, but that's the time that you teens got me put in handcuffs. So I'm convinced you will be the death of me. By the way, last airsoft war we ever had. It's been awesome being with you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. And I'm excited to be able to have this time with you, to share with you. And I'm looking forward to just digging in God's Word today. We're going to kind of do a culmination of all that we've talked about this weekend. We're talking about how we want to read God's Word, we want to study it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't do us any good if we just read and study. Because the whole point of doing all of that is because we have to do something about it. Okay, and so what does that look like? Nearly everything in life is based off of action. I don't know if you've ever thought about that. Everything is a result of an action, right? How did this building get here? Because somebody built it. That's like driving machinery, that's hammers, that's screwdrivers, that's all kinds of stuff in order to build this building, right? How do you get food on the table? Well, you go look for it. You're out, you're searching, or you're hunting, or you're farming. It's action, okay? You can't just sit back in your lawn chair and be like, man, really hope these fields just like start magically producing corn or potatoes or I don't know, whatever. It just doesn't happen that way. It's action, right? Okay, if somebody is not, it doesn't have action, right? They're not doing anything. What do we normally say about that person? How do we label them? Lazy. They're lazy. What else do we say? If somebody has everything handed to them, they don't have to work for it. They're spoiled. Yeah. Yeah, or we might say they're entitled. Okay? And so there's all of these negative words that we have when there's no action. Because again, we understand that this life is about action, and we have to do something with it. We can't just sit here and do nothing. Okay? I don't know why we would think it'd be different with the Bible. Right? If you want to get stronger, you got to go to the gym and you've got to hit the weights. If you want to get faster, you got to go run. If you want to become a better piano player, you go practice. You don't just sit there and just like, oh man, I really hope that I'm going to become this awesome piano player and just stare at the piano. It just doesn't work that way. How are we supposed to get closer with God? Just magically doing nothing. It takes action. It takes doing. We're going to have to work at it. And that's how this goes. If you will, turn your Bibles with me to James chapter 2. And this is one of the scriptures that really breaks down the idea that we can't just believe. What we've got to do is we've got to put it into action. We've got to work, right? We've got to do stuff. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. This week, or last night specifically, we talked about how we can break down a text, we can look for connections and things like that. So this is what I actually want to do that same thing today and help us learn together what this text says. So what I'm going to have you do is come grab 3 different colors of pencils. Okay, come grab 3 different colored pencils. Do you have a handout? No. You don't have a handout? Yeah. How many more do we need? How many more is needed? Well, and this is the last one I have. It's loose sleeve. All right, I'll go ahead. And it's okay if it's separate. Okay. I gave Jared your copy. He's going to make copies. Okay, everybody grab 3 different colors of pencils. Okay, everybody more or less good? I know if you don't have a copy, we have copies coming, so just hang tight. So here's what I want you to do for a few minutes. Actually, on the last page, I have James chapter 2, 14 through 16, just sectioned out for you. So here's what I'd like you to do. In one color, I want you to mark all of the words. So the way that you can do this, you can just kind of highlight it with the color it in. All of the words that are either faith or belief. In a different color, do all of the words that are works. Okay? Just do those two for now, and then we'll come back to this third one, okay? So take a couple of minutes and start doing that on that last page in the handout. And again, we got more handouts coming. Correct. All of the faith words or beliefs should be, say, green, and then all of work should be in like red or whatever your colors are. Do we know where we can get another chair?
Is there a chair over there?
There's no chair over there.
Yeah, go snuggle in. Is there a chair over there, Michael? Let me go grab you one. Sure. Yeah. Just ask if there's anybody.
Anybody else need a copy? Raise your hand if you need a copy. Sorry. Everybody else good? You got one? Hey, can I have one of you gentlemen give up your chair? Oh, here we go. Okay, if you're just joining us, what we're doing right now is you turn to that last page where I have this text, the James chapter 2 text, and you're marking all of the words. So like with a colored pencil, you're marking all the words that are faith, so it'd be faith or belief, and all the ones that are works. Okay? Okay, raise your hand if you're done. Raise your hand if you're done. Okay? Got several people working on it. Okay, so count them up. How many times does the word either faith or belief appear in this section? $14? Raise your hand if you got it 14 times. You got 13 times? Okay, so that means you probably missed one. All right? So by my count, it happened 14 times in this. Okay? Now, did everybody get works? Count them up. How many times does works occur in this section? 11, 15, 13. Okay, we got 11, we got 13. 11, 12. Okay, raise your hand if you got 13. Okay, raise your hand if you got more than 13. Okay, raise your hand if you got 12. Okay, 11. Okay, by my count it was 13. So look back, you may have missed one. The word work should happen 13 times. Yes. Yeah. Oh, man. Because it's like the same thing, right? Working, work. Right?
I have 13 now, Brad.
Okay. No. Hey, I care. I care. Okay, sweet. Does everybody have 13 now?
I only have 12.
Still missing one. Still missing one. Look for it. Okay, so here's now what I want you to do. All right, listen in. Listen in. Gentlemen. Okay, so now I want us to do this last one because it's going to use some unique words that tell us what faith and works or faith without works is. Okay, I want to give you an example. Look at verse 26. It says faith without works is what? Dead. So in your third color, mark the word dead. Mark the word dead. Now, there are 7 different words, and it might even be the same word, okay? But there are 7 different times to where it's going to identify that when you have faith, either with or without works, it's blank. Look through it and see if you can figure out those 7. I just gave you one, so you're looking for 6 more. How many think you got them all? You got 6? You got 6 more? 6 total or 7 total? 6 total. Okay. All right. So somebody give me one of them. Okay, what verse? Verse 20. Yep, very good. Faith without works is useless. Useless. What you got, bud? 22. Okay, faith was perfected. Okay. I don't see faith plus works equals perfected. Okay. Okay, I'm all right with that. All right. I'm all right with that. Perfected is faith. Okay. What else did you get? Foolish. All right, what verse? Verse 20. Okay, calls him a foolish fellow because he's recognizing that faith without works is useless. So he's foolish because he doesn't realize it's useless. But faith without works is useless, and that's what makes him foolish. I don't know if you followed me there. So foolish is not the word. Useless is the word, and he's foolish to believe it. Go ahead.
What use is it in 14?
Very good. What use is it? It's useless. Okay? So it says it a little different, but it's the same thing. All right, what else you got? Say it again. Yep, faith without works is dead. Any others? Verse 16. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. What use is that? If you just say, he's giving an example. Okay, go ahead. Okay. Not by faith alone, but what's happening when you just have faith alone? You're not what? Justified. Justified is the word there. Okay, and we'll talk about what justified means. What you got? Dead. Yeah, very good. Faith without works is dead. Okay? All right, so let me give you the ones that I have. Verse 14, what use is it? In other words, useless. It has no use. Okay? If he has faith, but he has no works, same verse, can that faith save him? So, faith without works cannot save. See it? 17, even so, faith, if it has no works, is dead. Verse 20, if you recognize, you foolish fellow, that faith without works is useless. There's the word. Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered up his son? So justified, because he's doing works and faith, that we see in the next verse. 24, you see that a man is justified by works and not by faith alone. And then the last one, verse 26, just as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead. Okay, flip around to the front sheet now. Let's fill in a few of these blanks. Okay, well, you've read the text. You've broken down the text. You now know this text a little bit better than maybe you did when you came, okay? So a little bit more familiar with it. So now what we can do is we can start really figuring out what it's saying. Okay, again, we're talking all about doing God's word. And so what if you had to summarize it, what's this section talking about? Faith and works. And you have to have both, right? Like, and the only reason we know that is because when you marked them, it just like pops off the page. You're like, wow, this thing talks a lot about faith and a lot about works. Got to have both. Okay, it's not rocket science, but there's something about marking it that just makes it jump off the page. Okay, so we're talking about doing God's word. All right, have I gotten all blanks so far? The last one on the introduction is we have to get to work. So if you didn't have that one. So when I talked about marking these words, the first one was faith and belief. The second one was works. And if out to the side you want to write 14 times on faith and belief, and then 13 times on works. It was 14 on faith and belief and 13 on works. Okay? And so now, let's go through this chart, and we basically just did it, but we have basically a contrast here. We have what faith without works is, and so then we would ask, what's the opposite of that? Okay? So in verse 15, we had... that should be 14. Yep, got it wrong there. Should be verse 14. It says, faith without works is useless. Now, let's pause for a minute. What does it mean, faith and works? What's that saying? What does that mean? Faith, go ahead.
There's no point in having faith.
Yeah, so faith is I believe in God, right? And works are actions. So the thing is that if I say that I believe in God, it has to translate to action. Okay? So imagine that you're on a cliff and someone says, okay, there's actually an invisible bridge in front of you. And you go, you know what? I believe you. I believe everything you're saying. And he's like, well, go ahead. And you're like, no, I'm good. I believe you. I do, but I'm busy. Do you believe that I believe? How am I supposed to show you that I believe? Okay. Right? Like you have to take the step in order to show that you believe. That's what this is. Do I believe that Jesus died on the cross? Do I believe that I can have my sins forgiven? The only way that I show that I actually believe that is if I do something. That's how it works. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. And if I just have faith and there's no action, my faith is useless. Do you follow? Okay. So then faith with works then is what? What would be the opposite of that? Useful. It's very useful. Okay? I'm going to change that to 14 real quick. Maybe.
It says 15 on the paper.
I know. So just mark it off, put 14, and look, it's like it never even happened. It's amazing. Okay, next one, in verse 15. Nope, that's 14 again. Man, I'm sorry, guys. It says, can that faith save him? So if you have faith, but you don't do anything, then it cannot save you. I don't know about you, but that one's a little scary. It's like, wait. I can't be saved if I just say I believe, but I don't do anything? That's kind of scary. Okay, so what's the opposite of that then? Faith with works can save. Yeah, it saves you. Right. Okay, well, that's what I want. I say I believe. Okay, I'm going to have to do something about it. Verse 17, it says that faith without works is dead. So I have a dead faith if all I say is I believe, but I don't show anything by my actions. Opposite of that would be what? Alive. Yeah. So faith with works is alive. Okay. We've seen this one already, or again. So in verse 20 it says that it's useless, and as we saw, that means the opposite is useful. Okay. So now let's jump to the positive side of this. In verse 24, what does it say that faith plus works is? Or that it does? Say it. Justifies. Yeah. Okay. Here's a word that we talk about in church, but a lot of times we don't know what it means. Anybody have an idea of what justified means? Any idea? Here's the best way that I remember it. It's just if I'd never sinned. If I'm justified, it's just as if in God's eyes I had never sinned. Does that make sense? So if I'm justified before God, that means the way that He views me is forgiven. Okay? So justified, just if I'd never sinned. All right. So if faith with works justifies, then faith without works can't justify. And if you're not justified, that means that before God, you have sin. So, if I say I believe God, but I don't do anything, then there's no forgiveness from God. And then we have another repeat in verse 26, says that faith without works is dead, and of course the opposite of that is alive. Okay, so when you look at that whole column, if I have faith, but I don't do anything with it, then that faith is useless. It's totally pointless. It can't save me. It's dead, and I can't be justified before God. That's a problem. Whereas if I say I believe and I do something about it, that is useful. It can save me. It does justify me, and it's alive. You can see it because it's showing action, right? Okay, so let's learn some lessons from this. If we walk through all of this, and maybe you guys can help. So what I have on your sheet, it's on number 2, it's lessons to learn. Lessons to learn from this text. So look back at verse 14. Faith without action can't what, according to verse 14? Can't save. Very good. Yep. Faith without action can't save somebody. Okay? I want to be saved. I want my sins to be forgiven, but it can't save me if I don't do anything with it. No, next one. Faith without action does what to people? You might have to come up with a unique word here. So look back at verse 15 and 16. If a brother or sister is without clothing and in need of daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," and yet you do not give them what's necessary to their body, what use is that? So, do you understand this scenario? So, imagine that you're outside, and there's this person who's dying of hypothermia. Okay, and you're like on a hike or whatever, and this person is dying of hypothermia, and you're like, "Hey, buddy, hope you get warm." Right? Or there's somebody on the street, and they're literally dying of starvation. I'm like, "Hey, be filled with food. I hope you get a nice warm belly of Big Daddy's barbecue." Right? What good did that do? So if my faith without action does what to these people? What am I doing to them? I'm doing nothing to them. The word that I'm using is I abandon them. Right? I'm abandoning someone. If I say I have faith, but there's no action, no, that's not helpful. Okay? Verse 17. Faith without action is what kind of faith? It's a dead faith. Okay? Let's read verse 18. But someone may well say, "You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without the works, and I will show you my faith by my works." What is this saying about faith? How do you perceive it according to this verse? How do you notice it? What's that? Through your works, and so it can be seen. You can see it, right? So again, if somebody is standing in front of a train, and I see the train coming, the way that I help that person is by doing something. And so you can see me like doing this dynamic, jumping save, and it takes them out of the way of the train, and it's this, whatever. Like you can see it. You can see what's going on there. Okay? Let's go down to the next verse, verse 19. You believe that God is one. You do well. The demons also believe and shudder. And so, faith without action is what who does? Say it again. This is what demons do. Yeah. So if I have gotten to the point of faith, I mean, good, congratulations, but I've reached demon level. Though, what is it that demons don't do? They don't do anything with this faith. They know God exists, but they're not following God. They don't obey God. They don't do what He commands, right? So if I actually believe what the Bible says, that means I have to go do something about it, okay? And if I just have faith, okay, you got something, but that's what demons do. They believe. And obviously we want to be better than that. Okay, moving on. We saw it in both 14 and 20. faith without action is what, according to verse 20? It's useless. Very good. It's useless. Has no use. It's basically garbage, right? Verse 21. Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered up Isaac on the altar? Okay, so who was justified by his faith and action? Abraham. We got an example. Okay? And then verse 22. Abraham's faith could be seen in what? His works. You guys are all over it, right? See how easy this is? You can do it. Okay, and Abraham's faith with works resulted in what for him, according to verse 23? Righteousness. Very good. Is that why you're laughing? Because I'm like giving you the answers way ahead? Okay, perfect. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, man, this guy's got it. Okay. Hey, no cheating. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is the face that does not believe. Okay. All right. Okay. So then what's the next answer? Wow, you guys are good. Man, their guys are good. They're so smart. Okay. So Abraham's faith with works resulted in his righteousness, and then faith with action justifies us before God. What does justified mean? Quizzing you. Just as if I'd never sinned. Maybe write it down, because I don't know if you're going to remember it. Just as if I'd never sinned. Okay, that's what it does between us and God. All right, verse 25. Who also was justified by her faith and actions? Rahab. Man, you even got it without it being up on the screen. I'm impressed. Okay, Rahab was justified by her faith and actions. So we're given two examples here. And then last one, verse 26, faith without works is dead.
You have to let him finish the question. It's not fair.
Okay, you guys are at like a 7. I'm going to need you to bring it down to a 5. Okay, bring it down to a 5. No, I'm kidding. All right. Now, we just broke down this text. We marked this text. We dissected the text. Not that hard, honestly, right? This is an easy text to do it with. But this is the type of stuff that you can do. But now what do we have to do with what we've learned? We have to apply it. We have to do something with it, okay? And so we have to ask, what does this mean? What do I have to go do with this? If I say, what is that bell? Is that 5-minute warning? Okay. If I say that I believe in God and yet I don't, and this is not a blank you fill in. This is supposed to be like a blank, okay? If I say that I believe in God and yet I don't do blank, then my faith isn't doing me any good at all. Okay, so let's fill in the blank with a bunch of things. If I say that I believe in God, but I don't do what? I don't read the Bible. Then is that faith working? No. I'm like, yeah, God, I believe that you gave us the Bible and that this came from you. How do I show that? By reading it. Okay, what else? If I say I believe in God, but I don't pray, right? Then I'm not letting my faith translate to actions. If I say I believe in God, but I don't, what was it? I don't tell people about it. You're right. Do we believe that we have the life-saving message to help, like, snatch people out of the fires of hell? I mean, right? It's God doing it. But, like, I get to point them to what God says on how to get saved. If I actually believe that, then it should translate to action. Go back to my train illustration for a minute. If you actually saw somebody, let's say that they tripped and they're passed out on train tracks, okay? And there's a train that's literally coming down the tracks. What would you do? You would pull them off of the tracks, wouldn't you? Like, wow, that's an unconscious person. They don't realize the danger that they're in. Well, in the Christian life, do we not realize that there's something coming down the tracks? Like at the end of this world, there's stuff that's coming that's like really, really bad. Like, I do not want people to face punishment. I really don't. And yet I have the ability to be like, hey, come off of the train tracks of sin and let's do something about this. But if I don't let that faith turn into action, then it's not doing that person any good. Okay, what else? Faith without works. If I say I believe in God, but I don't do what? How about, okay, go to church, right? Or let's maybe even specify it a little bit. If I say I believe in God and yet I don't worship, let's pause for just a second. When I say worship, I mean like really worship. If I say I believe in God and yet when I'm sitting in the assembly, I'm not really engaged, how do we really engage in the worship? Is this a good way to engage in worship? Right? And then they passing notes. No, I'm not engaged in worship. Maybe you're talking about the lesson. Okay, I get that. I've seen teens in my youth group who are texting or tweeting each other in the middle of worship. Non-engaged. Non-engaged in worship. Right? We're here to come before, you can almost like visually think about it, like you're walking up to God's throne and you're singing to Him. I mean, that kind of like gives me chills just thinking about the fact that that's what we're doing when we're coming together in worship. And so then it doesn't really matter what my voice sounds like. Here'd be something really interesting. What if God doesn't ever hear our voice, He only hears our heart? Would our heart sound better than our voice, no matter what our voice sounds like? Hope so. But that's what we're talking about. I think you guys get the point. Last blank here. According to what we just saw in everything from this text, we cannot go to heaven if on faith if we do not act. Again, that kind of scares me because we get really comfortable just kind of like showing up and just kind of going through the motions, right? We've sang the same songs since we were little kids, and we don't really think about what we're doing and what we're saying. God is asking for more. This person here, her name is Kim Lineman. Lineham. Kim Lineham. In 1970s, she was 18 years old, and she was training to become an Olympic swimmer. Really, really, really good. Okay? And yet, when they were asking about her training regimen and everything that she was going through, they said, hey, tell us the hardest thing about training. Here's what she said. Getting in the water. The hardest thing about training is getting in the water. Because it's taking that first step. Once you're in the water, you're wet, you're going to get going, right? Once you get going, you're going. The hardest thing is sometimes to get going. Real quick, because I know I'm out of time. Let's get in the water right now, very quickly. First thing, I want you to write down the name of somebody that you want to write an encouraging note to. Again, you can do this in just a minute. It says, write the note. Will you guys do something for me? Think about somebody in your congregation or in this youth group that you think could use some encouragement. Will you write them a note today? Please? Just say, hey, I was thinking about you. I just want to let you know you're awesome. Something like that. Or, hey, I've really been missing you. I hope everything is going well. Write them a note. Number two, who's somebody that you're going to try to talk to about Christ? If you wrote a name on the line, who's somebody that you want to talk to about Christ? Try to do that this next month. Okay? What's a spiritual habit that you want to start? Number 3. It's like, I haven't really been praying. I haven't been studying my Bible. What's one that you want to start, and how are you going to do it? And you don't have to write on the line right now, but what's a sin you struggle with? If you were to write down a main sin that you struggle with, what would you do? And then list how to improve it, and then write down a name of somebody that could help you. Do you see how this has taken the faith and put it into action? here's a bunch of stuff that you can do today, this week, this month, to take what you believe and put it into action. Last thing, if I can ever help you, if I can ever encourage you, if you ever have questions, this is my cell phone. Shoot me a text. I mean it with all of my heart. I'll do anything I can to help you get to heaven. And if there's a way that I can encourage you, I would be more than happy to do that. You guys have been awesome. Thank you. We're out.
Adam?